it chills down in this lower elevation.
And just the size of some of these trees was amazing. This was a Schefflera, believe it or not, and we were just stunned by how big it was. You can kind of see the foliage there to realize, oh, that is a chef.
Yeah, here at the nursery, we tend, and in our gardens, we tend to be used to seeing plants of a manageable size, 10 or 15 years old, but to see something very old of that same sort of thing kind of makes your little brain spin on its axis.
And another member of the African violet family, gesneriad, this is Loxostigma, which is quite an attractive plant. We're not sure about how hardy it will be since this is low elevation, but
Pretty sure zero, but
yeah,
zero hardiness, not hardy
never
to
know,
zero,
though.
but
Yeah, that's right.
but this looks a lot like Griffithii. There seems to be there's some little differences to it, and they've been describing new species from this area.
Yeah, there's
So
just so many species in China and Vietnam. And we love lilies, and we've been growing this species for a while, but it was really fun to see it in the wild. It's a big, tall thing growing, this kind of weaving its way up on this bank through
yeah,
other.
this is a near vertical face here, and perfect for it to hang out with these
Yeah,
downward facing flowers.
yeah, it's a late bloomer, so it was great to see it.
Lilium primulinum. In Europe, they're calling this form from this general area the Kingdon Ward form.
And it's hardy here, so
Oh
some
yeah,
of these
piece of
plants
cake.
are hardy. And this guy is he's just collecting these kind of fern tips, and he's also getting some bamboo shoots and stuffing them in his sack there. But
And
not the rubus for some reason.
yeah, we were
So,
really tempted by that. I mean, that looked pickable and
but
nice.
he wasn't going for it, so we guessed it was probably not tasty.
Yep. So
Looks pretty seedy.
yeah, and a little impatiens down below too. A weedy annual impatiens.
And this one of the things that's happened in this forest, unfortunately, is that there's a lot of cardamom plantations happening, so they're kind of choking out a lot of the other undergrowth. So this guy is a cardamom farmer, and the guy on the right is Patrick, our guide, and he's talking to him and asking him, "Okay, how do we get up the hill? When do we get to the top of the mountain?"
And so he strikes a pose with his cardamom knife. A man's very proud of his tool, and rightly so. That's got quite a wicked long blade to it with this hook tip.
That's right.
But his answer wasn't terribly good because
wasn't encouraging.
Yeah,
really.
we wouldn't never have any time to do it. It was just too much.
Yeah, it was a long
So we couldn't
distance.
do it.
So we just went a little bit further and ended up turning around.
And these are cardamom plants here, and while it is unfortunate that they do kind of decimate the understory of the forest, it does preserve the forest because they require shade to grow. So
well, that's true. They keep the trees.
So actually, in cardamom plantations, you can see some of the very biggest, oldest trees, and it's just kind of cool that way.
And Kelly's just photographing a member of the true ginger family, a Hedekium here.
Yeah, and growing epiphytically on the tree trunk.
Yeah, lots of things to do that. Just probably to get out of the deep understory. And orchids. There's orchids all over the place, especially epiphytic orchids.
And this is a cool little aroid in the Arisaea, related to Arisaema's jack in the pulpits. This is Remusatia hookerianum. Pretty distinctive with these pendulous stolons with these like feather dusters on it.
Yeah, you'd think that was the flower, but it's not. It's really strange.
Yeah, it's got these little almost little bulbils with little hooks on them, and this is an example of what they call zoochory, and that means that these are seeds or spores or bulblets in this case that are dispersed by animals.
So an animal would brush up against this and it would stick to their fur and be transported somewhere down the line.
And we grow this exact same species from a Vietnam collection, and we've tried planting these little things, and I don't know that, maybe ours weren't ripe. We've never gotten anything to come up from them, but It does, increase pretty well. It blooms very rarely. It doesn't bloom very often. When it does, it has a yellow spathe, but its primary means of propagation are through these asexual little propagules. It's kind of a curious thing, but really interesting.
It is an odd thing.
Odd things really make us happy.
And we're always looking for ferns because there's so many incredible ferns in Asia, and this was just one, probably maybe a Lepisaurus.
Yeah, these kind of sori that are in pairs going up the underside of the leaf is a good indicator that that might well be right.
And this is kind of the standard lunch that the guide gives us, which is quite heavy, actually. It's usually a potato and the sweet potato and a couple of hard-boiled eggs. And in this case, I think we got some taro root too.
And it does the job. You are not
fills
hungry.
You up.
And there'll be a disproportionate number of photos of me compared to Sue, because Sue does most of the photography.
No, I think it's because of your beautiful sideburns, Kelly.
Oh, those were awesome when I had them.
Yeah. Anyway, this was a really beautiful begonia too. Just really incredible seed heads. What's not to like about that?
Yeah, in the Palmata group, but it's that's a beautiful thing. And this is a rather lovely impatiens. It's an annual impatiens, but still quite nice. It's different than a lot of the ones we have seen. And Ophiopogons, the mondo grasses, we always enjoy. And this is a distinctive little creature here with these kind of wider, more spathulate leaves and these prominent white veins underneath, really attractive. One of a botanist, Aaron Floden at Missouri Botanic Garden, he's a consulting taxonomist for us at the Conservancy, and he's just brilliant on, well, so far,
everything.
Yeah, that's what we've come to the conclusion, and heck of a guy. And this is his best guess without, seeing flowers or running DNA. It's either in the Saiai or Ogisui group species. So.
Pretty different than anything else we've seen.
Yeah. And another gesneriad, can't even at this point begin to put a sab on the name. So here's Steve. We're all looking at this Exbucklandia pulponia in flower and fruit. We've seen it before in fruit, but we've never seen it in flower. So this was a real treat. It's in the witch hazel family.
Just got really beautiful leaves.
Yeah, it's got those little filamentous flowers. And here's a younger plant. And one of the distinctive features on this broad-leafed evergreen thing are these big leaf stipules here. They're like thumbs up here where the new leaves will emerge from. Really an attractive thing. We finally had to plant our oldest one out because it was outgrowing our greenhouse. And it didn't take very long at all for it to die in the winter, which was really too bad.
It was sad.
But the ones that have come in out of Sichuan have actually proved to have more hardiness and work in sheltered areas around here.
And Schima, which is in the camellia family, and often can be blooming in the fall. So it's always fun to see those. And sometimes we don't notice these things until we actually see the blossoms on the ground and then look up and, oh, look at that. Yeah,
the steeper the trail is, the more apt we're able to find something because we're always looking at the ground.
Gasping.
Yeah. And always anxious to see magnolias. And this is one here, and Tom's trying to get a leaf sample of this, and there's fruit on the ground, which is great to see. These are some of the fruiting cones up here.
Yeah, he was actually kind of climbing out over this lake, and which was a long ways down, so it was a tricky maneuver.
Yeah,
he's really good at that.
Oh yeah, he gets all the hard stuff.
There it is. We're not sure what species this is yet, but it's always fun to see them in fruit. Yeah, and there's a little schism in the taxonomy. The Chinese break it up, magnolias up into Mangalicias and Mycelias, and Western botanists tend to just lump them all into magnolias. So, well, it'll get sorted.
But we always enjoy the seeds dangle out of this cone, hanging by a nearly invisible little short thread. So that's just such a fun thing. Schefflera trevisioides, awesome plant, great foliage.
Never seen that in the wild before, so that was exciting.
Yeah, each leaflet's deeply dissected like a really elegant oak leaf, and very vertical, just shooting straight up, and not a shred of hardiness to it. It's growing at Tom's place in Cornwall in a sheltered spot right against a two-story brick wall. So it's making it there, but it, it never sees a frost there. So
also growing at Tom's place is the next Schefflera, which is kind of the queen of them all, Schefflera macrophylla, just huge, beautiful leaves. Also not going to be hardy here, but just wonderful to see.
Yeah, we first saw that in neighboring Vietnam, and just blown away by it, and just an awesome thing.
It gets right up up fairly high in Vietnam, but it's still not hardy, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it's just not nearly as impressive as the next.
Yeah, if you like big things. So this is on the railing down after we'd gotten off the hill there. This beetle was pretty good size, and you can't really get an idea how big it is until you have a size comparison. That's big.
That was a big beetle.
That's a fair mouthful. Gosh, I miss my chops. Oh well. So as we're leaving, we spotted this out the window, and I just had to see it because it's something we grow in the garden here, and it's something that Graham Stuart Thomas, famous English plantsman and garden author, described in one of his books as one of the finest of all foliage plants, is Rubus lineatus. And this is a blackberry, a thornless kind of woody blackberry, and it's just, gosh, it's just
it's fun to
great
sit in. It's
pleated leaves. It's a lovely thing. Yeah. And it doesn't fruit very much, so it's not a messy plant either. It fruits very sparingly. So the rest stops are just kind of awesome in China. They're amazing. And this was really promising with this giant noodle sculpture here with the chopsticks and all. So
unfortunately, it wasn't really lunchtime, so we didn't actually get any noodles. But the rest stops they've put in these huge modern rest stops, and you can just get anything you want there.
Because they're running a lot of people through them.
Yeah,
and
there's a lot of Chinese tourists now.
Fresh produce, and just anything you might want to eat. There's just a zillion little places. Or not eat. It'd just be great to know what they were.
And we drove and drove and drove along these banana plantations that went on forever. So
we're on our way to our next mountain, and Sue and I in particular, we're all super excited, but man, we're really excited about this one because we don't think anybody's ever been up it, Western wise, or at least plant people. And so we're pulling into our town here. This is
not a particularly attractive little town, that's for sure.
Yeah, this is looking out our hotel window, which looks kind of like these. And we're excited because, the bedroom, the room looks grand, and and I'm kind of inspired by the handy little thing on the little table between the two beds, which offers great instructions.
Not that you need that, Kelly.
Well, not anymore. And actually, I need some help because I haven't quite figured out what this is. Anyway.
But of course, in Asia generally, you have this kind of slit toilet, and it's always a little tricky when you're not good at squatting, which us Americans don't tend to be.
Yeah, and I'm not the most flexible anyway. But over the years, we've come up with a very workable solution because all the rooms usually have these little short stools, and it's pretty slick, really. And if it doesn't work out, well, they've got that hose there with the shower attachment, and you just hose the area down.
That's
and good to
where
go.
you take your shower too. So
yeah, it's awesome.
And so this is the owner of the hotel and also the guide who's going to take us up the mountain the next day, and he's doing a traditional tea ceremony with us and pouring this tea over this frog. Yeah,
this is a carved wooden frog here, and he just floods that whole tray with tea, and eventually you get to have some tea. So
yeah, apparently it's a sign of good luck to flood the frog.
And so this is our meal, our dinner before we head out the next morning on what's going to be a very difficult trek. We're super excited. And because one of the things that really excites us is this is an old military map that Tom came across, and it's just impossible to find some of these any information on any of these obscure peaks. But this is where we're going, is this area. And what's really fun is that relief data is incomplete.
So yeah, so just so you can see, this is the China, here's China here, and here's Vietnam here. So it's this funny little ear of Vietnam, and so we're right on the border of China and Vietnam in this high mountain range.
Yeah, and we had wanted to go to this mountain because this is the highest mountain right here in southeast Yunnan, Zilong, but it would take 7 days to get to the mountain on foot. So we opted not for that, but the sister mountain to Zilong
takes a day to get up to the top and a day to get back. So.
Yeah, and it's only 200 feet lower, and it's all part of the same northern extension out of Vietnam of the Hoang Lien Shan mountain range. So very, very good. I was just so excited.
So here we are. We're walking up through this little village just to start to find the trail up to the mountain, and it's another one that's kind of foggy and sucked in. But right off the bat, we see another Enkianthus species. So.
Which is right here. I should do a close up, but oh well. But we'd never seen Enkianthus ceratinus or ceratinus, however you want to pronounce it, before. So this is really exciting. It's another white flowered species. And this awesome little gesneriad. No idea. And
so right off the bat, we have to cross this, which is actually fairly rapidly moving stream, and you can't see, but just to the right here is quite a steep waterfall. So trying to get across here, and there's no bridge, and so they're
and it's not deep, but it's a little slippery, and
slippery. That's the main thing.
And they could tell right away that we're not like them,
that we're incompetent.
So here he is. He's ready to catch whoever might come down.
So the first thing you do, Kelly, is basically fall in.
And
you lose one of your hiking poles, and it goes right down the waterfall. So there you go. You've only got one pole now.
Yeah, but I had quick dry clothes on, so that all worked out.
But on the other side, there was this great bank of this really cool fern that we just always love to see when we go to Asia. It doesn't look remotely like a fern.
Yeah, these are big leaves on stipes or stems that can get 3, 4, 5 feet high, even taller.
Completely ungrowable. Nobody we know has ever had any luck with it.
Oh gosh, it's just
we've all tried.
I mean, it looks like it should be so easy because it makes these thickets.
Yeah.
And they could be useful, but it's just not. It's just the lobing is wrong for that. So, but yeah, dipterus. So continuing up, we're still kind of going through old abandoned cardamom fields and live, active cardamom fields, and this is just a little tree fern log here. That's a ladder.
Very slippery.
But we didn't see any actual tree ferns, but at least we did see a log ladder out of one. And
yeah, there goes Tom. He's very sure-footed. Actually.
Yeah, he's just demonstrating the proper usage. And here's just an example of the old cardamom plantations and how they would space out the trees for shade. It's pretty good. And some of the older, especially the oaks, they leave a lot of these big oaks, and they're just such great repositories for epiphytes. It's amazing. Stuff that grows there.
And this woman is hauling down bamboo, and it's quite a heavy load. And she's not a big person, that's for sure. So they work hard.
It kind of seems to be like the unwritten laws. You can't come down off the mountain until you've got at least your body weight on your back to take home.
That's right.
We're just laughing because
there's coyotes howling in the distance.
I don't know how far away they are. They're pretty loud. Anyway, this is a Brassioopsis, so it's closely related to Scheffleras. It's in the Araliaceae, differing in flower structure and the fact that they also are usually armored. They have prickles generally, verging on thorns. And you can kind of get a hint of these are flower bud clusters hanging down here. There's a little closer look at it.
The foliage is just stunning on these
What
guys.
a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And this is a little juvenile plant looking, so we could actually look down at the leaf and get an idea of the pattern on that leaf. It's really lovely. There's about 24 species of Brasseopsis in China.
Yeah, so who knows which one this is.
And this is a Rhododendron seritinum. Steve in particular is extremely interested. This is in subsection Fortunia, and he's just obsessed by subsection Fortunia, and particularly crazed. This is more of a northern group of plants, but we keep
Here it
finding
is, almost to Vietnam.
Yeah, and we keep finding he keeps finding southern outliers, and
well, it's kind of one of the missions of the Rhododendron Species Botanic Garden is just to find these outliers, and so
yeah, trying to make sense of it all.
Yep. And just so many epiphytes on these big old trees. That's just a beautiful bunch of ferns on there.
And you know,
all kinds of other things.
You know, ericaceous things just clothing it. Aescananthus, orchids.
There's rhododendrons.
Rhododendrons right in there.
Vacciniums.
There's 2 rhododendrons on there in that photo. It's crazy. Just crazy. And you know, it's such a treat to see huge old growth trees too in China, as it is anywhere in the world anymore.
Yeah, too often we go to places where everything's been cut down, and so it's really nice to see this preserved.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And so the guy on the right is the owner of the hotel, and he insisted on having this banner displayed. And then we found out later it was an advertisement for his hotel and his touring business. So he was pretty excited to have Westerners on a tour. He'd never done that before, and he was hoping that we would spread the word, I guess.
And this is a area that he takes Chinese folks, tourists, up to see the butterflies. Apparently, there's a lot of butterflies in the spring, but
he hadn't been up since I think May, maybe, or June, and so the trails had pretty much closed in, and there was a lot of work with a machete just to get through.
Yeah, and just pushing through
hacking bamboo
and spiny things.
Yeah, it was tough going. And another one of those gesneriad members, Primulinum. It's a beautiful leaf on this guy.
Yeah, and you can see the flower spike coming up, and it's going to have small tubular yellow flowers with a kind of a small, somewhat open flower face to it. And this was like a dream to see. We've been looking for this for some years. This is Shortia sinensis, kind of the Asian analog to the Shortia glacifolia in the Carolinas. Really great to see this. It's going to have white to pink flowers. It's in the Diapensiaceae.
Yeah.
So, awesome thing. And this was crazy. I mean, we looked at this. We saw several plants of this, and the leaves are rough, and they're thick, and they're got such texture to them. You could almost, like, you know, polish a callus with it, you know. So,
you know, since we're such ace botanists, we just said, well, I don't know what this is. Let's call it the shark skin plant.
But looking at it, you know, that we should have taken a good photo of the terminal bud there. It's a primula.
Yeah,
definitely a primula.
Yeah, we realized later on that it was.
Yeah, no idea.
Yeah.
And there were other primulas here. This is a big sweep of this primula here, this little green.
Yeah, and that's always a good sign that you're getting into areas where things are hardy too, when you're seeing things like primroses growing.
And this is Primula petilatii, and this grows in kind of one elevational band, and then about 300 to 400 feet higher, there's a similar species, which may be the same species, but it does look different to us. And we saw that on the same trail. We saw both of these species at those same elevational distribution differences on Fancy Pan, the highest mountain in North Vietnam.
Which is basically the extension of the same
mountain range. Makes perfect sense, but it's really interesting. But a fairly recently described species.
We
and
did
that
a,
actually,
we did a double take on this. We went, what the hell? Is that a flower bud? And we realized our guide was just messing with us, and he put a potato in the
he could tell we were really fascinated by it. So he's a
He's a
lot of
character.
fun. But we all got pretty torn up on the
Yeah, a lot of
trail, that's for
brambles,
sure.
lots of
Yeah.
prickly things for sure. And chicken in the woods, like we have in our woods here, are very similar anyway. And so one of the guides was taking a picture of this, and yeah.
And so we finally get up to the top. I mean, there's no photos really from the last half of the trail because we dawdled so much, and then they basically told us we had
It became a forced march.
we had like 2,500 feet to go in a very short time, and
before
this was
dark, basically.
well over 4,000 feet that we were climbing, and I don't know, it must have been 20 miles or something, but.
So this is our lovely accommodation built by the Chinese many years ago, and it's just this old concrete bunker. And they've built a very smoky fire under the eaves there.
Yeah, and this is right exactly on the border with Vietnam, and so this is back when they were having some tensions with Vietnam. So they it's basically a little border outpost, and yeah, it's still standing, which is great. And so we're just right, not quite at the summit, but Tom's staring at the actual summit of this mountain is called Wu Tai. If you Google Wu Tai, this won't come up. Another one will. But this is Wu Tai Shan. And Tom's looking up at this rounded knob of a monoculture almost of Rhododendron sinofalconeri.
Which is crazy.
Just amazing. Yeah. A big leafed rhododendron just covering this mountain. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, so they're getting out the food and they're cooking out stuff in a big cast iron pot, but then they told us, well, okay, so you're going to sleep in here, and they had told us they were going to bring tents and everything, and so we weren't really I especially was not too excited about my accommodations, I have to say.
Yeah, no, it's like, yes, just kind of join in with the porters and everything. It's like,
yeah, and it was just filthy, and anyway, it's just a little.
But anyway, so we opted, and this room was where everybody was sleeping. I mean, that would have been fine, but it was just full of smoke from the fire. So we opted for this little upper chateau, the penthouse, I guess, so to speak. And it was a very narrow thing. We were able to fit 4 in, like 2 on each side lengthwise, with just enough of a little path to escape out in the night, which was absolutely necessary for me. Unbelievably necessary for me. And
I'm really happy that I always bring a thermarest because I'm bony, and I was really happy to have it that night. Nobody else had one, so.
But we had these they gave us like tinfoil,
yeah,
for sleeping pads.
Yeah,
so yeah, but I slept when I could. Anyway, I won't get into that, but I had such bad leg cramps. Sue kept giving me magnesium pills. I must have eaten, I don't know, a dozen of them.
You ate too many.
And then suddenly, boy, I had to go out into the wilds of Wu Tai. Anyway, so here's dinner finally coming together. They'd gone inside and found a broken down door laying on the floor in there, and that's our dining table.
Yeah, there you go.
And they just carved off a little flat spot on this log and chopped up whatever that is. Really great. And then we start drinking, of course. That's just how it works. And this young guy, one of the porters, he's got his phone with a little speaker attached to it, and
he's doing karaoke.
Oh my God, that was really
was a little strange.
Yeah, and he was pretty lit. It was fun.
But the next morning, we were really excited to see that we could actually see the top of the mountain. It didn't last long, but we got one quick view. And we were really excited to climb up. There was a trail up to the very top. And we're having, we had some breakfast, and then we're headed up, and it was another steep climb. But these are the trunks of all those rhododendrons. I mean, it is just a forest underneath there, and you can see the leaves. It's just a carpet of fallen leaves. These are going to have big yellow flowers on them. And yeah, it must be spectacular. And we're close to 10,000 feet here, and
And these are super hardy for us. We've got no problem. They can take, as you can see on the mountain, it's a big leaf rhododendron that can take sun and wind. It's remarkable, really.
And then we're right up at the top, and there's just an old, I'm not even sure what this structure is.
Yeah, some
like
little...
a tower or something, and then one of the guides is standing up on top of it.
Yeah, the karaoke guy who's a little more subdued in the morning than he was the night before.
For sure. But yeah, just all these great ground covers of different things.
You're right on the summit. This little Gaultheria, another Gaultheria. Yeah, Steve was really scratching his head on. He says, "Boy, this is the nearest species on this is way up in the Kangshan. What the hell is this doing here?" So that was pretty interesting.
Way up in northern Yunnan. And another little blueberry relative here, this vaccinium here.
Yeah, so we've got like a little ericaceous palette here. We've got the the previous two little Gaultherias here, a vaccinium. We've got rhododendron. It's just really fun. And right on top, Schefflera fengii. This is one that Steve introduced to cultivation back in 95, 96. I can't remember, 95, I think. And first time that had been introduced, and it's been perfectly hardy in the Seattle area outside. Awesome plant. And it was really cool to see it as high up as it can get in Southeast Yunnan. And the fruit display, really magnificent.
It was a really good fruit. Look at that.
And right in here, you can just kind of catch this. This is a sorbus, and
so
this mountain ash, and it had these entire leaves. It's in the kind of the area section, the white beam section, and but the remarkable thing was it had this golden indumentum to the leaves.
Yeah, Tom went crazy over this because he collects these anyway, and he was just so excited to see this because he'd never seen anything like this one.
And a friend of his in England's a taxonomist, botanist, and he has just recently done a revision of the genus Sorbus, and he's broken the genus down into different genera. And he looked at this, and he's quite sure this is something new, and provisionally he's put it in the genus Griffithera, and provisionally given it the species names Orata. And so,
great, I have to learn yet another genus.
One more thing to update in the database.
That's right.
So yeah, that's really exciting.
Really cool to see.
Yeah, I'd never seen it before. Totally new plant.
And here we are. Here's the border, which was kind of funny because you could actually pick this up. This was a symbol saying, that it's the border of Vietnam and China, but you could actually pick this up and move it around. So
yeah, it
seems a little odd.
A little stainless steel. So yeah, it's kind of cool. And always love to see Paris. That's Trillium relative. That's Asian version, but really attractive fruit on it. It's getting harder and harder to find Paris because it's dug very heavily dug for medicinal use.
As many plants are.
And a lot of the Paris has gotten so scarce in China now that they're exporting Paris out of Vietnam, and they're digging all their Paris up.
Yeah. But we're heading back down, and here we've gone by the chicken of the woods on the way back down, and the one of the guides is like, "Well, okay, I'm picking it now." So,
yeah, he was the real outdoorsman, the woodsman of the whole bunch.
He was taking that home for dinner.
Yeah, he was serious.
And we got to see this really interesting fall blooming Arisaemas, or jack-in-the-pulpits, the beautiful leaves.
Not sure what that one is by any stretch.
But this one was absolutely gorgeous. So what a cool flower that is.
Yeah, Arisaema rhizomatum. There's something kind of reptilian.
Yes, indeed.
About it, and that's something that you always kind of think about in the far back of your mind. Is there's a lot of snakes.
There's many snakes
in China,
and many of them are poisonous.
A lot of them are poisonous, and we're just pushing our way through stuff, and we don't pay any attention really, and so we were on the way back down, and gosh.
And this guy was coiled up right next to the path in some bamboo, and so we were stopped and we were staring at it and taking pictures. And our main guide, the hotel guy, came behind us, and he went, "What are you looking at?" And he didn't speak English, but that's basically what he was saying. And We pointed and he went, oh, and he went running off the trail. And, oh, no, no, it's clearly a very dangerous viper. So
as is my habit, I kept telling Sue, now get a good close-up.
yeah. I don't think so. All right, we're back down at the bottom here, and this is just where they've been carving up bamboo for food.
Yeah, just peeling shoots.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. We're hoping for dinner.
Yeah, the bamboo shoots are one of the best foods we have there.
So we're down in the village where the car is, the Jeep or van, I guess, and Sue peels off her raincoat, and
which
it's
self-destructed on the trip anyway. It was an old raincoat, and it had a leech inside it. There's a leech that hasn't had a whole lot of blood yet, so it's not swollen that much, but it was attached to me. I did find a bite.
Yeah, and I felt fortunate that I didn't get any until I checked my leg, and I did have a couple apparently. So they're just remarkable little creatures. You
don't feel them.
You can't feel them. They've got an anesthetic in their bite and an anticoagulant to keep the blood flowing. So they're awesome little things. But it was a big deal for our guide to have some Westerners to show around, and we had to meet his mom.
Yeah,
that was fun. Then we got to meet his sister, who he'd arranged to come and
his niece
come and cook a special barbecue. That's her specialty.
That's her barbecue. That's her barbecue thing there.
So we're having some of the best parts.
Yeah, there's a nice chicken head there.
And these little things, look like little squid rings, and so of course I had to have one of those, and there's no way you can chew that. I mean, it never got like.
I think it's part of the stomach or something.
Yeah, it's something.
It's pretty disgusting.
Something internal.
Yeah.
But it lasts you on the trail for a long time.
Okay, so now we're moving on to the next area that we're going to explore, which is Dawashan in the Pingbian area over in, I guess this is in Guangxi now.
No, it's still Yunnan.
Is it still Yunnan? Okay.
Yeah.
But it's a reserve, and so it's another place where they've preserved some of the big old trees.
So yeah, we just wanted to see this, and Steve in particular wanted to see the recently described Rhododendron pingbianensis. So, but we will never forget the big trees. Unbelievable. Magnolia and Cygnus.
The size of that magnolia, it's amazing. And we grow this plant, Turnistreamia, but it's a tiny little plant in our garden, and we're just,
had
oh my God.
Had no idea it was this towering canopy tree. It's just like, I'm still just agog over it. Looking at that picture, it's like crazy. Didn't get the caption on this. This is a tree in the Styrax family, and this is Rehderodendron macrocarpum. It's going to have white flowers, pendulous white flowers, and big, like elongated walnut fruit. Awesome thing.
Nice to see a big one.
And again, it's like, boy, I didn't leave enough room out in the field when we planted that.
Yeah, need more acreage.
No kidding. Which is actually quite true. We do need more acreage in case anybody wants to fund a new botanic garden. So this is another one of the Primulinas growing in this log. They're perfectly happy. They really require excellent drainage. And another gesneriad, no idea what this one is, but it's got to be nice. That's a big beast.
And another Brassioopsis with that beautiful foliage. I think this is clearly a different species than the one we saw before, but who knows what it is. And more begonias. This is Begonia versicolor, which was just beautiful.
Yeah, this was really fun to see. It was always on these kind of banks or edges, and it doesn't get any taller than, maybe 3 inches or so. It's just a lovely thing. And a lot of the trees they're so old that the soil underneath has eroded away underneath because it does get so much rain, and they're up on these stilt roots. And this was particularly interesting to us because this is in the Rhodoleia family. This is a plant called Gambleia. Just a crazy thing. We've tried many times to grow it, and we've never had any luck.
And because this is a reserve, and they, tourists come here, they do have all kinds of fun little structures that you can walk across, like this canopy walk here, which was a little scary.
But it's really great because in these rainforest situations, So many of the interesting plants sometimes are growing actually in the canopy of other trees. And so this was a good opportunity to kind of get up close and personal.
And Kelly doesn't like heights, so he wasn't too keen on going up this steep ladder up to this other little kind of platform.
Yeah, so they've got ladders going up some of these big trees. This is a big lithocarpus, which, is encouraging because, that's an oak and that's got to be strong as all get out.
But Steve and Tom and I went up, so we went, okay, I'll go too. So we get up to the top.
And, it's like I'm encouraged, we got tubular steel, we got big angle iron, but the damn thing's attached to the tree and it's killed the points of attachment.
So this is all dead wood here that is like the main point of attachment for this whole structure.
That's not making me very comfortable.
No.
So.
But we did pose for a photograph. It was okay.
But looking down here, you can see some of these big rhododendrons.
Yeah, it was fun to look down.
Awesome plants.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did manage to get a smile, but we headed down immediately.
It was a nervous smile.
Yeah. Oh, it's just cool. I'm sorry, I'm just looking. Ferns are great. We'll never get tired of ferns.
Yeah.
And
and because it's a reserve, they have to have all these little signage everywhere, but with long involved descriptions.
I like the conjugal love myself.
And how about those for nuts?
Those are some big nuts, Sue. So these are huge acorns off of Lithocarpus, just an incredible thing, Lithocarpus pachylepis. And this is something that is widely used medicinally, and this probably will shock you, but it's as an aphrodisiac, because these nuts when they're out of the shell apparently resemble the glands of the penis, and so these are big, and so it's got to be good. It's got to work. We don't know that personally, but that's the theory.
And then we understood the sign after we saw these big acorns. We're, oh, okay.
Sure, yeah.
One of those hits you on the head, that's going to hurt.
That would be a conch.
Okay, so now we've moved on to our next little town that we're staying in, which is next to this construction scene here. This just a modern way of building here.
And here's our hotel we're staying at, and we're just looking at this fellow here, and he's working on this big pile of bricks. This one guy, and he puts 4 of these little things on this little wooden platform. Really heavy.
For him to even lift onto that thing.
And it gets here's the platform, and it gets lifted up on this really sturdy crane here, and they're just building the walls up. Yeah. And he does this. They do that all day long.
He was doing it at 6 a.m, and then he was still doing it when we came back down off the mountain that night. He was probably doing it for 12 hours.
They work until the pile's gone, and then another dump truck shows up with a pile for the next day. He had 4 arms, let me tell you. And everybody works hard. I mean, even the little ponies it's kind of an anachronism, but they're still in use. But we're heading up to this area. This is an area called Laojun Shan, and this is an area that Steve had been in '95 for like an hour and a half. And that's where he had introduced Schefflera fengii from, introduced Rhododendron sinofalconeri from, and it'd been 20 some years and 25 years.
And with Peter Cox from Glendoick.
Great rhododendron.
And he just really wanted to see it again. And so we had to get permission because it's a military base up top there. And so we did get a local.
Yeah, you can see the radar station.
Ex-military guy, one guy, as long as we stayed at this one guy's hotel, the other guy would take us up. So it's just like they made a deal.
They're all related.
Yeah. So we drove as far as we could, and then that's as far as they'll let you go. And then we walked down the road.
We decided not to push it and go right to the gate or anything. But here's Steve. He just excitedly flew up the side of that rock face there to look at sinofalconeri, Rhododendron sinofalconeri. Beautiful thing. Same plant that we saw on
Wutai.
But the one on Wutai looked a little bit different.
Yeah, so there was a lot of arguments back and forth between Steve and Tom. But yeah, there he is. He had to have his picture taken in front of him.
Yeah, we insisted. He's a bit camera shy generally.
He doesn't usually smile either, so we got him to smile on this one.
He's all serious business, that Steve. Not really. not by any stretch.
And here's the Schefflera, which is also a beautiful plant, has beautiful indumentum.
And being as it's a military base, they do frequent road clearing, cleaning there. So they keep the banks just tidy as all get out. But this one Schefflera branch had been hacked off. So that was really cool. So the interesting thing is that it has this indumentum in the wild, seed that Steve had collected from an indumented plant back in '95. None of the seedlings have indumentum in cultivation. So it's
I don't know, something about the climate there.
real peculiarity.
Yeah. And there was even a little gentian growing on the rock face here.
Just above the scraping.
Yeah.
But it does develop into
a handsome plant.
Quite a good little plant.
Yeah.
And we're excited to see, we're totally into Disperopsis and Polygonatums and all that sort of group. And it's fun to see Disperopsis pernii. I always enjoy seeing that. But this might have been the plant, one of the plants.
Plant of this mountain, probably.
Yeah, only because Steve had seen those other two plants earlier. But Magnolia amabilis, it's a pretty rare magnolia in cultivation, and it's quite a small one. It just gets, maybe 9 feet tall or so. It's a little shrub with white fragrant flowers. Quite a cool thing. Looks a lot like Magnolia levifolia, but different. Really beautiful.
Mm-hmm. So we've done that mountain, and now we're gonna go grab something to eat afterwards in our charming little town. And our guide said, "Okay, we're gonna go to Donkey Hot Pot
because it's another relative that owns it."
Yes. So this is a restaurant that only serves donkey.
And you can see that they're happy donkeys that have
really happy
free
donkeys.
Range out in the field.
Yeah.
So there's the Donkey Hot Pot. What's left a bit, and it took like 20 minutes. And usually Chinese food's very quick, but it's like 20 minutes before we got served. And that most of those minutes were you could hear pounding in the back, and they're trying to tenderize the donkey, I think.
And they also took the skin off of it, which apparently they don't always do. But
yeah, Patrick
did for us.
Yeah, Patrick asked him. He says, "I asked them to take the skin off. Usually it's served with the skin on, but I knew you wouldn't like it." But boy, that
didn't like it. Period.
That was one tough donkey. It must have been an old useless donkey because they wouldn't. Anyway,
sure. But of course, the restaurants, got all these nice little napkin holders and posters of the happy donkeys.
Yeah, and I tried not to think too long on the guide donkey meat. I don't want to follow that. Anyway, so generally, every night in the hotel room, it's like get out specimens and start trying to key things out and figure it out. It's important to have your wits about you. A little bit of Black Bush Irish whiskey is kind of helps the neurons fire off properly.
And one of the alarming things that we see every time we go to Asia, and more, of course, is all the development that's happening and just new giant throughways going in everywhere.
Yeah, the old highway system, which isn't that old, is now obsolete, and they're replacing it with just this massive infrastructure all over, everywhere you go, and along with high-speed rail. It's incredible.
And it's such a steep landscape, and this is all karst, limestone, and so they just kind of punch. It's just all bridges and tunnels. They'll just punch right through this landscape.
Yeah, and we're heading on to our last mountain in Guangxi, Western Guangxi.
One more mountain.
And it's just karst country, and this is kind of the modern equivalent of karst. They're just making these huge new
lots and lots of cities,
apartment complexes, and just like make an entire city in a year.
Yeah. So we stopped at this restaurant in the city where we spent the night because it was a 2-day drive to the last mountain, and this is the owner of the restaurant. She was so excited to have Westerners.
And Steve's going, "Oh boy, I know how this is going to end." And he's always said, Tom, all the girls just gravitate towards Tom. He says, "I'm just out here by myself." Sure enough, there's Tom, center of attention, and Steve's going, "Oh, for God's sakes!" And now he's just looking to the heavens. "Oh, just take me now."
No, they're just all doing selfies.
Yeah, with Tom.
Yeah.
Tom.
And we got lost trying to find this last mountain because there was flooding and it was rerouted. But anyway, so we saw this woman harvesting some black rice, which was interesting.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. But we finally have made it to the little town at the base of the Yuanbaoshan, the last mountain. It's a Mao village, which is one of the ethnic minorities, and they do beautiful building.
And they're tooling it up for tourism,
Yeah,
and so a lot of these structures
this is all
are new.
and there's going to be a lot of tourists coming here shortly. Probably already are.
And these are some really ancient, like 300-400-year-old Pinus Smithsonianus. It's just really
Very
beautiful.
picturesque.
Right, growing right in the floodplain of this little river.
Yeah.
Very excited. We just did a little walk before dinner around the hill there, and Inchianthus quinqueflorus. Never seen that before. It was so awesome. Evergreen species. There's about 6 Inchianthus species in China, and we put a pretty good dent in that number on this trip, so it was really fun.
And never seen this species of Daphniphyllum before either. Much more rounded leaves than you see in a lot of the species.
And real typical Daphniphyllum fruit on it. Flowers are nothing, but awesome.
It's a handsome plant.
Awesome evergreen. And Schima. This
giant
is
Schima.
That's that little white camellia-like flower we saw earlier that was laying on the ground as well. This is a massive tree. Massive. Unbelievable. Hardly ever get tired of big bamboo.
Yeah, it's pretty much everywhere.
But what a picturesque,
that's the town.
Picturesque village. And we're going to be heading out this way, and we're going to try to get up on the top of these mountains. This is Yuanbaoshan. And one of the things that Yuanbaoshan is famous for is this southern kind of relic population of a northern genus, Abies, or true fir. This Abies yuanbaoshanensis. And there's, across the Yuanbaoshan range, there's about 700 trees.
Which is not very many.
Not too many. And it's, it's not going to take much climate change, and it's going to be too warm for those to continue on. So it was really excited to see that. Very few people have had the opportunity.
Yeah, it's quite protected. And another Inchianthus.
Inchianthus chinensis. Yeah, we've seen that in Vietnam as well.
This is just an example of one of the things I do when I take photographs of these plants, and I can use this app so I can get the elevation and latitude and longitude and the name and whatever notes I want to put down on here. So it's very handy.
Yeah.
And it happens to be a Stewartia, which is really cool plant to see.
Yeah, Stewartia, of course, in the Camellia family, the TAC.
Beautiful bark.
Lovely bark, great foliage, nice habit, generally nice white flowers. And this is actually
good looking foliage.
Yeah, and this is an evergreen species. Some of the lower elevation Stewartias are evergreen, and you can kind of get an idea of this little flanged red petiole, which just adds the allure of the species. It's likely and exciting just to see the classic sort of Stewartia seed capsule up there.
Always good to see that.
Yeah, and this is likely going to have disappointingly small white flowers, but still, we'll take it. It's very
Beautiful
lovely.
Bark, though.
Yeah. And this odd little thing is always on our radar. Rhinechia carnea, little ground cover, evergreen, has a beautiful little white flowers that are scented, and it varies. We've collected it way up north in Yunnan. We try to get material. It just seems like there should be another species in that genus because it's so variable. We've gotten such widely variable representatives of it, but DNA, Aaron Floden's run DNA on a couple of the outliers that we've gotten, and it's like, no, he says it's Rhinechia carnea. He says, I was sure that one was going to be different, but oh well. But this is a particularly narrow-leafed form, so yet another variant. There's the fruit on it. And
another plant that we were excited to see, this little tiny Disporopsis. We brought one back from Jinfoshan, way up in, let's see, way farther. Where is like Jinfoshan? In Chongqing province. And it was really exciting to see that on top of the mountain that it's named for. But we
Well,
saw
it was
this.
exciting too, because it was first time it had been introduced to
That's right. It's
cultivation.
only known from herbarium specimens.
And Aaron happened to be doing DNA profile on the entire genus, and Genfushinensis was one he was lacking. So it was great for him to have some material to spin up on it.
So here we are much further south, and we're seeing what looks very similar to the one we saw up on Jimfoshan. And Aaron said, yeah, it could be that, or it could be this other species. And so far we don't know which
Yeah,
it is.
Dysprapsis yui, maybe.
Yeah.
Weird little
fun to
thing.
see it. Tiny little thing.
And Steve and Tom had been to this mountain the year previously, and they wanted to go back because the weather was just heinous, and it was just miserable, and they just weren't able to accomplish their goals on the mountain, and this is one that Steve had seen and told us about, and so that's
Kelly's just striking a pose here
yeah,
with his chops.
That's just magnificent. What can I say? Just magnificent.
That's one way of putting it.
And inspired the rest of the gang to.
And that's our local guide. He's a forester ranger guide
who was in charge of this whole district. So it was really so he knew his way.
He knew the trail and took us up one way and then down another way.
And that's a big Suga chinensis hemlock, Chinese hemlock behind.
And oh boy, this has got Steve and Tom going. This is Rhododendron in subsection Fortunia, of course, which is Steve's favorite section, but they could not figure out what this was. Yeah, they've got differing opinions. So at some point, have to see flowers to know for sure. But handsome plant. It's beautiful. Handsome. Right plant. On the top of the mountain. Very windswept location. And here's the fir. Yay! Oh, that was just a dream to see that plant. But we really did. I mean, look how big. That's a big old specimen. But we did not see any young ones at all. Not a single little plant. And this is at the highest level of protection. International protection and everything. Yeah, I think we were really fortunate to be just even allowed to look at this plant. And we've seen this oddball thing, on several occasions, and that's just like the dream ground cover, for maybe coastal California or something, but. It's in the Melastomataceae and probably Fortiophyton. Yeah, it's really cool. God, it's killer. Not very easy to grow though. We've tried it a couple times and it doesn't seem to like us. But it's gonna have probably pink flowers, which would be really kind of showy. And just had to take a picture of this mushroom. It was so beautiful. You did that actually, Kelly. And another beautiful fall blooming. That's that one from Wutai that kind of looked reptilian. Mm-hmm. And this is something we're just totally keen on. This is, saw this and immediately knew it to be Diplopanic stachyanthus. We are one of the kind of the FRBC's things we can hang our hat on is we flowered Diplopanic stachyanthus from our collection some years ago of essentially an alpine form of this tree. And it's the first time anywhere in the world it's flowered in cultivation. So that was awesome. So we're always looking for it. And in this situation, it grows really big. It's not an alpine tree. It's in much lower elevation. And now I guess there's some thought that there's different subspecies of this. So yeah. And so it's a Pleistocene relic. It's a real primitive plant. It's known from fossil records in North America. Yeah. Crazy thing. There it is, just way the hell up there. Yeah. And it's growing in a really wet condition. So it's just, it's awesome. And we recognize the fruit, though it's a little different shaped than the ones that we found in the previous time. Yeah, but shorter and rounder. And it's it's a rare plant in China, and it also grows in Vietnam, and as well as another species farther south in Vietnam, Diplopanax indochinensis. Okay, I think we're wrapping it up here. Yes, we are. And so this is like every night, it's like getting field notes down. And we spend all day out in the field, and then we spend half the night writing up the notes. And it's for a long day. And and I can tell on Steve's little laptop here, that's Flora of China. So we're keying out things, trying to get stuff sussed out and writing down some details. And so, it's
I think that we saw some amazing things. It was really a wonderful FRBC trip to be on, but the plants are great. But the thing that, I don't know, we remember the most are this one bag of snacks from one of the rest stops. It's a bag of sad dog flavored chips.
Which I did not try, but it was just like, what? Anyway, that's our last slide, and we really appreciate your attention. Hopefully it wasn't too long.
Thank you for your indulgence.
We do have one question about the name of the software that you use that records the location, Sue.
Oh, it's called Solocator. Yeah, it's an app. Yeah, yeah, it was really handy.
It's a little frustrating to have to, you know, kind of enter all that stuff in on the picture, you know.
Yeah, but it saves time later on, and I'm always saying, oh, I'll remember what that is, or maybe it's raining, which it usually is, and I'm trying to write it in a notebook. So this way I can just put it right on the photo itself.
Yeah, it's really, really great.
Yeah. Yep. Trying to enter the modern age at least a little bit. Kicking and screaming.
My favorite old fossil.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions that Sue and Kelly can answer quickly?
Is there anything in the chat or anything, Patty? Or
just that one question.
Oh, okay. All right. We've stunned everyone into silence, I guess.
Well, it was great to really appreciate you all joining us tonight, and
absolutely
appreciate your support. We could not have, well, obviously we couldn't have done this trip without your financial support, and it was just so awesome. And
that's for sure.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks to all you East Coast people for staying up so late. And we will have a recording of this available if you want to watch it again, or if you missed part of it or whatever. So thank you.
And thanks for the tip on an option to Zoom too, Maggie. I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Well, thank you, everyone. We'll